Hi everybody, I'm Simon Cooper from the Cooper Strip Club. Today we've got a different project to do. We're going to be taking some graffiti off the stainless steel siding here. Some people thought it made a very good artboard. We're here at the Pahiatua Rail Society. Anyone from New Zealand may well have seen these. These are the Silver Ferns. So they're an iconic piece of New Zealand history. We've actually got Don, the president of the society, here to tell a story for us. So, what's it all about?
Well, it's all about the fact that these rail cars were built back in 1971, went into service in late 72 with what was then New Zealand Railways, and they've now become surplus, which I'll perhaps go back to in a minute, but they served New Zealand right through until about a year ago, or it might have been late 19, I think, in various roles. When they started, they were on the North Island main trunk railway between Auckland and Wellington, and replaced carriage trains on that route. Worked on that for, I'm not sure the exact timing, but about 10 to 15 years, somewhere in that range, and eventually they were replaced by one of the later carriage trains, and were grouped up in Auckland, and they ran services out to to Morrinsville. Two cars coupled together ran to Morrinsville. They were separated at Morrinsville. One went to Rotorua and one went to Tauranga. They were on that for about 7 or 8 years, and then that ceased, and they were grouped up in Auckland again and ran suburban services, because at that stage Auckland was short of suburban passenger capacity, and they were on that for possibly up to 10 years, and that ceased, and their last role in what had by then become Kiwi Rail was to that they were on cruise ship and internal tour parties, one in the North Island under Kiwi Rail, and another one was actually leased to what had been Taieri Gorge Railway, became Dunedin Railways, and they used it on cruise ships out of Port Chalmers, Dunedin, and up as far as Oamaru and other charters in the area. Eventually, another car, which had been retained in the North Island on the cruise ship and other tourist services around the North Island, was transferred to the South Island, and operated out of Christchurch on the Midland line up to Arthur's Pass, and on that case with cruise ship traffic from Akaroa. They were bused from Akaroa to Rolleston, and anyway, eventually all that stopped with COVID-19. Although I think it really stopped a bit before that, and they grouped them up in Christchurch and were going to give them a complete overhaul program. COVID-19 basically put paid to it, because they could see there was no future in cruise ship traffic for a number of years. So around about August this year, now it's last year, 2020, we were approached by Kiwi Rail with an offer to sell them to us at quite a reasonable price, actually, which they said if we didn't take them, they would definitely be scrapped. They were not going to offer them to anybody else, because they thought we were the only group in the country that could probably handle them. They're rather complicated beasts. Anyway, we made up our mind pretty quick. It was a unanimous decision of the committee, and we bought them and paid for them. But what it brought on was a big expenditure, because not only we have to find the money to pay for the rail cars, we had to find somewhere to put them. And where I'm standing now, it was a much smaller yard here, and we got busy, found the materials. Some of them we had in stock, some we bought in, and basically we've ended up with a brand new 3-track railway yard here, which because they're so long is fairly lengthy. And we also had prior to that we had to spend a lot of money on site work. We had a couple of contractors here working here for 2 or 3 weeks, and that cost a fair bit of money. And we've also, by the way, in the deal, we were actually given about 4 containers full of spare parts, and as well as I think there's been about 5 or 6 truckloads arrived from various depots around the country where they kept finding other bits and pieces, which has been quite handy. But so there's been substantial costs up to date. We had to get busy and raise a lot of money in a hurry, and here we are now standing with them, and our people are just starting to inspect them and assess what work needs doing. We'll probably try and get one of them mobile, because they actually hold 96 passengers, which is a pretty big capacity. They've got every row of seats has got windows alongside it, which isn't always the case, and they've got a kitchen which crew can dish out food and stuff, a good luggage compartment, and a lot of other goodies. But basically they are got years of service left in them, but we are going to have to do quite a bit of work, and we're not sure exactly how much that is yet. One of them is, we think, got a slightly tired engines in it. Another one has got some problem with wear on the wheels, the bogie wheels, and there's a few other things that need doing. But generally speaking, we're still assessing that. But in due course, and hopefully within a year, 18 months, we'll have the first of them out there, and we think that they'll be a big asset to tourism within New Zealand. We've had quite a lot of help from the local Tauranga District Council's tourism and development people, and they were originally keen back when cruise ships were still in vogue, of us bringing cruise ship passengers from Napier and Wellington into the area and spending time, locally, and it would have worked well, because not all cruise ships call at both Napier and Wellington, but probably about 50% of them did. And basically you pick up a load in either Napier or Wellington at 8 AM in the morning, and you've got till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock the next night to deliver them. So they would have probably stayed in the area too. But generally speaking, we'll also use them on other tourism work, I suppose. We run quite a lot of charters with our present railcar, and we're, if anything, lack capacity with it. It takes 52 passengers, which is barely economic, and you've got to work hard to make money. But 96 passengers, and by the way, we can run 2 of them together. You can run these in multiple. In fact, I don't think it's impossible to run 3, but I don't think we'd probably look at that. And so we're looking forward to taking a bigger role in casual tourist operations, I would say. We have, incidentally, in the past, had our toe in the water with inbound tour. One stage we went to Auckland. We had a load going up, by the way, and stayed in Otahu really overnight. And the next morning, the Glenbrook Vintage Railway, or Railway Enthusiast Society, which is their governing body, they sold a complete railcar out, and we took them up to Helensville, where we met a cruise, a party from a cruise ship by bus, an Australian party they were, and the first thing that happened was the people we'd taken to Helensville got on the bus, and they took the bus back to Auckland, which worked rather well. But then this party, we had them for 8 days around the North Island, all over the place, and it worked well, and we had several other bookings when COVID-19 came in and put a stop to all that, but hopefully we'll get back into it. And overall, they're going to be a tremendous asset to the district and to New Zealand, or North Island definitely. Who knows whether we'll get to the South Island again, but they will be a tremendous asset, and we've got a very experienced crew and fitters, and we're actually quite able to, well, the reason Kiwi Rail have actually made them available to us is they knew that we had the ability to do all this, and so we will, and we'll do it for the benefit of the district and passenger traffic generally around the North Island.
So cool, isn't it? See you inside. So this is the throttle.
That's the throttle on the right
hand. Okay, well that's the most important one. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, the one on your left hand is more important. It's
Oh, the brake. The brake. Throttle brake. Okay.
Yeah.
I've missed my vocation in life. This is where I feel I should have been.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. So 1,010 horses in here.
Yeah, 1,010. It's a Caterpillar D398 diesel, which is a big industrial engine found in a lot of equipment like crushing plants and other industrial applications. And it drives it's about a 900 kilowatt electric motor, which is basically this beast here. And it's a diesel electric, just like all the locomotives, or most of the locomotives on Kiwi Rail are. The diesel drives the electric and the electric drives the wheels. The electric motor here, that weighs 3.5 tonne. And here you've got a galley cum servery, whatever.
So this car looks smaller than the previous one.
Yeah, it is. It's, I think, just a bit more than a third of the total capacity.
Was one of them first class and the other general, or they're all the same?
No, I think they're all the one class as far as I know. I mean, there could have been, for example, if you wanted a seat with a table,
yeah,
that might have cost more in Kiwi Rail days, I don't know. What does that say? 10, 11, 12, 13... Yeah, there's probably about, I don't know, around about 30 in here, I think.
Lots of beer fridges, which is very important. So this goes both directions.
Yeah, they're bi-directional.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. From a passenger point of view, with a bit of a clean-up, we could go out tomorrow. That's one of the beauties of it. It's not a restoration of facilities or anything like that. It'll be motors and running gear, mostly, and some of the auxiliary stuff may be in need of attention, and it'll be a little while before we fully assess that. I mean, you're operating with really big gear with this. These are 107 tonnes or tons, and about 46 metres long, I think, in total, on their own.
So everything's heavy.
Another thing, though, is that this will be our first venture into diesel-electric propulsion. We've been what is generally called diesel mechanical up till now, and diesel mechanical, well, you're looking for older people who know how to handle diesel mechanical stuff in general, because I think what we have found is that we've got fitters who have been around for a long time and are used to old gear, but the Kiwi Rail fitters, we've had a bit of help from some of them, but generally speaking, I think most of them now, I don't think Kiwi Rail's partly got anybody that was brought up on diesel mechanical. And so what we're finding is that all of a sudden there's a few people putting up their hands, a bit like I am just then, because we're now into diesel electric and it's something they know about. And we'll be pretty grateful for any help we get out of them too. We're pretty lucky there's one already been over here and another one showing a bit of interest, but I think more will follow, really.
What sort of dollars do you think to restore one?
Look, I can't even speculate about that, except to say it hopefully won't be megabucks, because we don't know as yet. If you get into some fairly large overhaul, we're not sure about the condition of the motors, either diesel or the electric. We think they're basically mainly okay, but one of them was rumoured to have a tired motor. We don't know about that yet, whether that's true or not. One has been probably not done a lot of work since a full-scale motor overhaul. So that'll possibly be the one we go for, but what tends to happen with these things, the one with a good motor will have crook wheels sets or something under it, and we're fairly used to that. We're going to need a higher workshop, because you pretty well, to be able to lift anything, you've actually got to lift it out the roof, so you need room.
There's a few metres to get
to
that don't height.
Know there's been a bit of talk about 4-poster, or more than 4-poster probably, but post type lifting gear. It's not really something, I mean, we use cranes. We had Macintosh's cranes here only a few weeks ago with the other rail car lifting the body, the complete body off, and then you wheel out the wheel sets underneath it and take out what you want to take. But this is different. Basically, if you're going to do something and it has to have heavy overhaul, then it's going to have to come out through the roof. Well, I think what we've done has been something that will long be remembered as one of the best moves that's been made in the railway preservation industry, if you like, and we are an industry for years. That's not to say that other people haven't done anything as adventurous. Some of the big steam groups in particular have done wonders and still are. We've now got 7 rail cars altogether here.
Wow.
We started with one, the Wairarapa car over the Rimatukas. It's basically finished, but it's got one problem with it. We've got the second one we got, she's the one we use, and then we've got one that's down in the shed there, which is a major rebuild, the so-called Drury twin sets, Fiats to a lot of people, but we will finish it. We're more than halfway through, I think, at least halfway. And then we've got another rail car, the same model as the one we use, which just arrived about, well, it'll be 2 years ago, I suppose, in March. But the arrival of these has probably pushed that down the overhaul program, which we were going to do something about.
Too good an opportunity.
A lot of New Zealand listeners will be wondering what happened to the blue streak. Who's got that?
No, well, they don't exist any longer. The blue streaks were a upgrade modification of the so-called Drury twin sets or Fiats, the 88-seaters, which worked through here. In fact, they worked nearly everywhere in New Zealand. There were 35 of them around. But when they decided to withdraw them, at management within, would have been New Zealand Railways then, basically were keen to see that none of them survived. And it's not really a criticism, it was just the way they were. They didn't want to see anybody starting up against them, I suppose. And so most of them were sold for dismantling, cutting up to scrap dealers. But we got into that quite a few years ago now, to be 20 years ago, and after, we actually found 2 of those. One was laid up at Auckland Airport and was being used as a training aid for evacuation and separately anti-terrorist operations. But it had been out in the open for too long, and just before we got it, they accidentally set fire to it while they were doing a smoke evacuation. Anyway, we've got it here, and it had the last set of wheels underneath it, and so we brought it here, and there's still a few bits of it around, and half of it is in that shed down there. But after that, we managed to pick up 2 intact bodies. One of them was actually at a motel at Waitomo Caves, and the other one we got that from the Bay of Islands, actually. Here, Kawakawa, I think it was, or one of them. Kirikiri it was. There was in a quarry up there. So we've done a lot of recoveries, for want of a better word. In fact, I can think now we've probably employed big cranes somewhere between 50 and 70 times since we've been doing it. But that project, going back to the one you called a blue streak, which was a modification or an upgrade of the original Drury twin sets, that project is about half finished. It's in the shed just along beyond these cars, and it will be finished. And we have the wheel sets off the other one, and we've got pretty much all we need for it. It's a matter of time, and all our people are volunteers, and money. We do trips like in a few weeks we're doing a day. We'll do trips out of Dannyvirk northwards, because we've got we have 5 drivers, by the way, and they have to remain competent, and 2 of them need a bit more experience on hill territory. North of Dannyvirk's very good for it. So we're going to run a few trips there, and that'll pay for their extra training. And then in the afternoon we'll run through the gorge from Woodville to Ashurst and back, which we've been doing for quite a long time. And in recent years, we've hardly had any trouble filling those, usually sold out. Woodville Eyesight does a great job, matter of fact. But shortly after that, about 2 weeks later, we're doing another gorge trip day. And on the last trip, there's a busload coming down from Napier, and they're going to book out the rail car, go through the gorge to Ashurst, and then when it comes back to Woodville, they won't be getting out because the rail car is positioning in Napier, ready for Art Deco the following weekend. And we will be running round Napier, which we've done quite a bit. We didn't go last year, but we've been there nearly every year since we got out on the main line. But it must be 7 or 8, 10 years now. And then I think it's around about a couple of weeks later, we're doing a new Plymouth trip, which we do periodically too, once every 2 years, and we go up and we run off the foreshore down, if you know where the wind wand is, at Pukeariki, it's called, in
New Plymouth.
New Plymouth, and actually their eyesight's just over the road as it happens, and it's a nice place, and half of New Plymouth turns up, and we've got a almost standing arrangement with a Lions Club at Inglewood, who happens to be one of our members. His sister's the secretary or something, and they always charter us for a trip, and we've got regulars doing it, and we go to Wanganui's vintage weekends, and just recently we ran a trip which was after our last gorge trips. The rail car was positioned back in Palmerston North instead of coming back to Pahiatua. The next morning it went from what we call a round the block or round the hills trip on this occasion, through the Manawatu Gorge, down through the Wairarapa to Wellington, back to Paraparam where we stopped for a couple of hours and everybody had lunch, and then back to Palmerston and eventually back to Pahiatua that night. And they are always pretty many are full. By the way, with drivers, I mentioned we have 5 drivers. We've had 3 pretty well all the way through. 2 of those very valuable men, they retired in the last 12 months. In fact, the second one, he drove the locomotive that hauled these cars from Wellington to Pahiatua, and that was his final trip. But anyway, they have selected 2 or 3. We've now got one of our drivers, who's Napier based. He's been around for quite a while and runs all our excursions. He's continuing, but there's been 4 more trained up. Now they are all Kiwi Rail drivers because we have to employ a Kiwi Rail driver. We provide guards and all the rest of the staff got our own fitters, but we have to. It's a requirement to get a licence to be out there. So we hire them, and that's probably our biggest expense actually when we're going away anywhere. But that's the game. That's the game.
George and I better
get some work
get started on the job. I'd like to say thank you so much. This has been great to be able to be involved.
One of our community projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're so lucky that you're interested. So thank you.
Yeah. Very nice to meet you.
Cheers, Don.
Okay.
Good one. Okay.
Thank you.
Cooper's, the stripper that gets it off every time.